The left is coming for your kids, and they're coming for them in more ways than one. The Democrats have proudly told us time and time again that they believe parental rights are laughable, that parents having a say in the education of their own children is a far gone and antiquated notion, that parents with the intestinal fortitude to stand up for their rights anyway are akin to domestic terrorists and should have the weight of the FBI bearing down on them. For decades, the left has tried to get a hold of your kids. It used to be through subtle indoctrination and higher education, but when that wasn't enough, they set their sights on younger age brackets. Now you've got BLM, CRT, and LGBTQ indoctrination and brainwashing happening at every grade level. They want your kids reading and learning about gay sex. They want your kids entertained by grown men in dresses. And they want your kids changing genders without your knowledge or consent. They want you to believe, and more importantly, for your kids to believe, they belong to the system, the government, the collective.
Rebecca put a teacher's creed into words when she said, "There's no such thing as someone else's child. No such thing as someone else's child. Our nation's children are all our children."
The White House doubled down on that message again this week with this Pride post.
These are our kids. These are our neighbors. Not somebody else's kids, they're all our kids. And our children are the kite strings that hold our national ambitions aloft. It matters a great deal how we treat everyone in this country. LGBTQ Americans, especially children.
The administration is working overtime to get to your kids. They want to drive a wedge in your families and insert themselves in the middle. This is the tactic they are taking, and it's sick. But this pride and gender-affirming crap isn't the only way they're asserting control over your kids and your rights. Here is a ranking member of the House Judiciary, Jerry Nadler, advocating for the forced masking of children. This clip is from yesterday, not 3 years ago in the height of COVID, yesterday.
And when we have a pandemic, like COVID-19 pandemic that we had, 2-year-olds should have been required to wear masks. It would be child abuse for parents not to do that.
These tyrants think they have the power to force mask your children, the real child abuse, and then they have the audacity to tell you, the child's parent, that if you allow your child to breathe freely, you are abusing your children. Just think about how sick and wrong that is. That's the Democrat Party, folks. And it's not just the weirdo green hairs or the drag queen strippers that are saying these kinds of things. These are mainstream establishment Democrats who are saying and believing and legislating these things. They've told us who they are for many years now, and it's time we start believing them. The 2024 election, from local to state and all the way up the ladder to the White House, should be about the economy and inflation and national security, but it should also be about parental rights. Vote accordingly. This has been a dark week in American history. Donald J. Trump has been indicted yet again, and Joe Biden and his crime family are getting away with their criminal enterprise still and yet again. The country is in free fall politically, economically, and morally, and in times like these, it's good to have friends in low places. Garth Brooks, my first loser this week, may need a few of those these days after he royally pissed off his fan base with this. In an interview with Billboard, he proudly proclaimed that his new Nashville bar and honky tonk will serve Bud Light. And whatever, I mean, it's his bar, he can do what he wants. But it was the end of his statement that really pissed people off, because he declared that if you were let into this house, love one another. If you're an a-hole, there are plenty of other places on Lower Broadway. So let me get this straight, Garth. You want everyone to love one another, but if you don't support the Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney mockery of women, you're an a-hole? That kind of sentiment might go over well with liberals and fans of any other music genre, but you, my friend, just like Bud Light, seem to be blissfully unaware of who your audience actually is. But speaking of transgressions, let's take a trip to historic 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, shall we? The White House, the People's House, steeped in history, tradition, American pride, and patriotism. Oh, and since Joe moved in, transgenders flashing their fake boobs on the lawn. That was trans influencer Rose Montoya and her breasts in all their glory right there on the White House lawn. he, whatever, was invited to the White House as a prop for Biden's LGBTQ barbecue pride celebration. And I know you all are just shocked she would pull such a classless and grotesque stunt at such a historic and revered American landmark. Just kidding. This is par for the course. Now, after a considerable amount of backlash, Rose has now been banned from future events, but defended her actions, saying she wanted to show off her transformation just as the trans men were doing as they flashed their breast removal scars. Classy. Now, the White House put out a statement calling the flashing inappropriate and disrespectful and not reflective of the event we host to celebrate LGBTQI+ whatever families and their guests. What Rose did was really just prove our point that the radical arm of this newly formed rainbow mafia isn't fighting for respect and equality. They are flaunting their parts for the world to see in a sick and completely inappropriate way, and then hiding behind their protected class status to pass it off as diversity and tolerance. And this is why we can't have nice things. Moving on to loser 3 this week. Millennials and Gen Zers who are apparently triggered by so-called workplace jargon used by older coworkers. According to new research from LinkedIn and Duolingo, almost half of Gen Z and millennial workers feel left out and puzzled by workplace jargon such as blue sky thinking, low-hanging fruit, ducks in a row, touch base, or circle back. These phrases used by older coworkers have left these youngsters perplexed because they feel like they're hearing another language. I mean, for God's sakes, these kids are so frickin' whiny and also stupid. First, it was a revolt over having to return to the office in real clothes, then came quiet quitting, then bare minimum Mondays, and now this. These phrases are not hard to figure out with a little common sense. And with all the slang kids these days use, most of it birthed on communist TikTok, I really don't think they have room to talk. I would say it's the pot calling the kettle black, but these idiots wouldn't know what I'm talking about anyway. I swear this is the era of dumb and lazy. Maybe this is what happens when young people receive their educational guidance from communists and drag queens.